Percival Lee Watts and Shannon Catherine Watts were natives of Spring Lake in Aberdeen, North Carolina. They met at the year 2010, and they got married in the province of Mecklenburg on the 3rd of November of 2012. They had 2 daughters, Bella Marie Watts and Celeste Catherine Watts. The family lived in 5-bedroom house, Frederick, Colorado, that was purchased in 2013. The couple declared bankruptcy in 2015, and later Chris Watts was always working at Anadarko Oil Corporation, while Shannon was a freelance representative of the multi-level marketing company Leeville, where she sold a product called Thrive. At the time of their death, she was 15 weeks pregnant with a child, and they planned to name him Benico Lee Watts. And due to her due date that has been January 31 of 2019.
He is the best thing that has ever happened to me. So with that being said, know that no matter what, I can go on forever with this story, but I want to cut it short so I don't bore you guys. Know that no matter how hard life gets, no matter how low you feel, know that deep down, in your heart, that there's a purpose, there's a reason for everything. We may not understand it at the time.
We did it again. I like that shirt. Really?
Really?
That's awesome. So pink means...
That's just the test.
I know. It just says the pink is going to be girls.
I don't know. Just the test.
That's awesome.
Shannon returned home for a business trip to Arizona at about 1:48 a.m. on the 13th of August of 2018, after being picked up by her colleague, Nicole Autofit Atkinson. Chris was at home with the children, and later that day, Shannon and the 2 children were reportedly missing by Atkinson, who became concerned when Shannon did not show up for their scheduled appointment for the OB-GYN and not receive any text messages from her.
I'm calling because I'm concerned about a friend of mine. She's not answering the door. She's not responding to text messages, phone calls, and there's no movement in the house whatsoever.
Hi.
You're Nicole?
Yes.
Okay. So what's going on?
So my friend, we were out of town for a business trip this weekend.
Right.
And I dropped her off at 2 o'clock this morning. She's 15 weeks pregnant. She wasn't feeling well. And she had a doctor's appointment this morning at 9, and I told her to let me know if she needed me to take her. She's got 2 little girls. And she was very distraught over the weekend, wasn't eating normally or drinking, and we kept trying to force it on her because she's pregnant. Her husband and her supposedly are separating, but she didn't know this. She thought they were just having issues. He disclosed that to me today. Because I called him and I was like, have you talked or heard from Shanann since she left for work this morning? Because I can't get a hold of her. I called, I texted. Her car's in the garage. Her shoes she wears every single day are by the front door.
She only has 1 vehicle?
No, they only have the 1 vehicle and his work truck.
Okay, that's what I'm asking. There's not
The girls and went on a play date, but they're 4 and 2. She went on a play date. Why wouldn't she take in a car? They're both in car seats.
And after missing a business meeting, Atkinson went to Watts' house at about 12:10 p.m. And when the bell rang and there was no answer, Atkinson notified Chris and called the Frederick Police Department. The officers arrived for a welfare check at about 1:40 p.m. Chris, who had arrived home from work, spoke with the officers and discussed ways to locate his missing family.
So what kind of tools did you have to load up in the garage?
It was just mainly I got my water bottles, my water jug, my computer, book bags. I had my containers full of just my O-rings, all that stuff, just putting it all in there because I took it out all out.
You loaded up every day?
All just like on the Monday, like after I get all that stuff, because I had an issue where somebody stole all my tools out of my truck. My pipe wrenches are gone, my socket set's gone, what else? My wrench set's gone. Like we had an issue. That's why I parked my truck in front of the neighbor's house for like a few days, just to see if I could see if anybody was breaking it, tried to break into my truck again. It was my fault. I left it unlocked. So as far as the toolbox was on the back.
So on the weekend you download your stuff?
Everything out?
Mm-hmm.
And then on Monday you load it back up?
Just put it all back in, just to kind of get everything out of my truck, clean it out a little bit from the whole week, because it gets filled.
During the police search, Chris gave permission to search the house, but none of the family members were found. Researchers discovered Shannon's wallet, phone, wedding ring, and keys in the car, which still had child car seats in the garage.
Any friends she would be hanging out with? I know, I guess her
Amanda,
parents are out of state.
across country, North Carolina.
Oh,
Yeah, so that's not happening. She can play. Cool. All the girls' blankies are gone. Their blankets they sleep with, they don't leave anywhere without them.
good. Nothing else appears to be missing though, just
No.
stuff you'd take for a quick trip.
You got cool rings, Her phone.
Her phone's here? Her phone's here.
Does she work?
Yeah, she works from home.
Oh, from home?
She works, this is her lifeline.
You guys having any kind of issues, marital issues, or
We're going through separation.
you are? Did you guys file it yet or anything, or just talking about?
No, we're gonna sell the house and do a separation.
Later, Chris was arrested on the 15th of August of 2018. And after that, Watts failed the polygraph test and later confessed to Shannon's murder. Watts asked to speak with his father before confessing, and Watts had an affair with another woman, whom he did not tell that he was married, and claimed that he asked to separate from his wife.
I'm sitting next to you, so we're looking at it together.
We had already predetermined that Special Agent Coder with the FBI would conduct the initial interview of Chris Watts at the police department, and then he would request that I conduct a polygraph with Chris later on. Chris was not a suspect. It's very important to not alienate Chris, and at this point, he knows the most about everything, and we really wanted him to help us find his family.
What do you think happened? At first, I really thought maybe she was just at somebody's house, just decompressing. Going on scene? Yeah. But after today, like with the onslaught of, all the police cars, all the news, all the canine units, it's making me lean the other direction about someone took her. Okay. And it's freaking me out.
I was able to watch a live feed video of the interview as it was happening, and it was extremely important to get a baseline story from Chris.
This husband whose wife and children are missing, he's the last one to have seen them. He can give us the information that we need to help find them.
Special Agent Coder had Chris actually write out a written statement, and so they spent, several hours going over Chris's statement in great detail.
So, 4 a.m., doorbell, detects the visitor. It showed Nicole dropping her off. Okay. 2 a.m., Shannon gets in bed with me. 4 a.m., that's when my alarm goes off for work. Start having a conversation with her about having the house up for sale. and talking about it. Stuff like actually proceeding with the separation. Okay. And it gets pretty emotional because we have 2 beautiful kids and we have 1 on the way.
And on the 21st of August, Watts was charged with 5 counts of first-degree murder, including additional charges for each child killed as death of a child under the age of 12 and the defendant that was in position of trust, illegal termination of pregnancy, and 3 counts of tampering with the deceased human body.
Counting something or like under something? In something?
I didn't know what else to do.
I know, so someone would do it. I know.
I didn't know what else to do. I was so scared.
I know.
It's like, no, I just did this, and I just did that. What do I do?
Right.
Or anything that I would do from there was just going to be just insensitive and just a horrible thing.
You were in a tough spot. I mean, what can you do, right?
Sometimes your body just kind of takes over and... Can you show us?
What's going to happen?
We're going to help him get out of there. Would you prefer that when you're one of your coworkers?
Oh my God, no. Okay. I can't have that.
We're afraid
You said it.
Chris Watts pleaded guilty to the murders on the 6th of November. The death penalty was not filed by the district attorney at the request of Shannon's family, which did not want any further death. They were supportive of the decision to accept the deal, and on the 19th of November, Watts was sentenced to 5 life sentences, 3 consecutive and 2 contractant without the possibility of parole. He received an additional 48 years for illegally terminating his wife's pregnancy and 36 years for 3 counts of tampering with a deceased corpse.
Objectively say that this is perhaps the most inhumane and vicious crime that I have handled out of the thousands of cases that I have seen. And nothing less than a maximum sentence would be appropriate, and anything less than the maximum sentence would depreciate the seriousness of this offense. So the court is going to sentence Mr. Watts as follows. With regard to count number 1, murder in the first degree as it relates to Shanann Watts, the court is going to sentence you, sir, to a life sentence in the Colorado Department of Corrections, followed with no possibility of parole. And that is going to run consecutively to all but counts 3 and 4. With regard to count 2, as it relates to murder in the first degree with Bella, the court is going to sentence you to life in the Colorado Department of Corrections with no possibility of parole. With regard to count number 3, the court is going to sentence you as it relates to Celeste to life in the Colorado Department of Corrections with no possibility of parole. With regard to counts 4 and 5 relating to Bella and Celeste as a different theory of first-degree murder, the court is going to sentence you to life in the Colorado Department of Corrections, and legally those sentences must run concurrently as a different theory of first-degree murder. Recognizing the unlawful termination of pregnancy for the unborn child that has been named Nico, the court absolutely believes that the maximum sentence of 48 years would be appropriate to run consecutive to the other charges, with an additional mandatory parole period of 3 years as set forth by statute. With regard to count number 7, as it relates to tampering with a deceased body, as well as counts 8 and 9, each a Class 3 felony, the court is going to impose a maximum sentence of 12 years each for those counts to run consecutively to the other counts. The court is going to order that statutory fees be paid and court costs. The court's going to grant the prosecution 91 days to file a notice of restitution, and that will be the sentence of the court. We will shortly be in recess. I would respectfully ask the parties that you remain in your seat. There is a plan by the deputies on allowing people to exit the courtroom, so please remain seated until you are authorized to leave the courtroom based on the direction of the deputies. Deputies, I would respectfully ask that you take this defendant into custody and have him serve the rest of his life in the Department of Corrections. We are in recess.